My sheep hear my voice, and the stranger they will not follow, but will flee from him, for they know not the voice of strangers.
All right, tonight we're going to continue our study on raising kings and queens, which is actually a study through the book of the Proverbs. These Proverbs are our Proverbs Zion. They belong to us. They were written by our grandfather. Yes, King Solomon, who is primarily writing the Proverbs that he received from his father, who is none other than our most famous king besides Ha Mashiac, which is King David or King David, King David in the Hebrew, which means beloved. And of course, you know, when our Messiah was here, he said that he was going to come and sit on the throne of David. So we know that these Proverbs are held in very high esteem, and they are life-changing. And the primary goal of the Proverbs is to raise royalty. And that's why I've been prompted to do these messages, because in these last days, and especially at the time when we are discovering who we are and whose we are, then the next logical question is, then how are we to live? How are we to walk? How are we to move in the society that we find ourselves in, which of course in these last days is not a world based on the Torah, but it is a society that's primarily based on the beast system. It's based on the beast, and it's based on the teachings of the great dragon, the evil red dragon, which we know is Satan, the devil. So as we navigate through life, we need to know how to do it. And so we are teaching these lessons. And we're in Proverbs, still in Proverbs chapter 1. And I've given you all several definitions to get to this point. But tonight I want to actually begin to talk about the very first true proverb, the very first, I guess, proverb. Technically speaking, we're going to see an entire proverb, and then we're going to just spend a few moments, breaking it down and then helping us to understand the proverb, because that's what it's all about. It's not just about hearing it, but getting understanding, and then hopefully being able to take what we learn and then apply it to our everyday lives. So technically speaking, this is the first complete proverb. All right, so let's listen to it. In the book of Proverbs, chapter 1, beginning at verse 10. Right, so Proverbs chapter 1, verse 10. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. If they say, come with us, let us lay wait for blood. Let us lurk privately for the innocent without cause. Let us swallow them up alive as the grave, and whole as those that go down into the pit. Verse 13, we shall find all precious substance. We shall fill our houses with spoil. Cast in thy lot among us. Let us all have one purse. My son, walk not thou in the way with them. Refrain thy foot from their path, for their feet run to evil and make haste to shed blood. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird, and they lay wait for their own blood. They lurk privately for their own lives. So are the ways of everyone that is greedy of gain, which taketh away the life of the owners thereof. The very first proverb, technically speaking, is a proverb telling us when we are to back our feet up, to stop progress, to stop moving forward with the wicked, to refrain your foot from their path. So the name of this lesson is when to back your feet up. Yep. One of the first things we need to know is when to tell your feet to back up. I'm going to say that one more time. Name of our lesson: when to tell your feet to back up. Now, as the title suggests, there is a time that we, you and I, need to know when it is time to change directions. We need to know that. Part of wisdom. And of course, speaking to the next generation, because as I've said in every video, this may be too late for my generation and the generation right after me. These messages might be discovered by what we call, not my original, what we call the short-legger, the very young people. Part of living the life of royalty is knowing when to tell your feet to back up. Why? Because you naturally are not made the way Yah designed us. I'm talking about physically speaking, based on the human anatomy, based on the way our hands and our feet and our legs and arms, the way we are made to move forward. We are made to walk forward. We are made to run forward. We are made to jog forward. So the question is, based on the subject, when is it time that we would tell our own feet, don't you make another step in that direction. Don't go in that direction. Don't take another step. When is it time to do that? Because it is unnatural for people, and especially kings and queens, it's unnatural for people to just naturally walk backwards. People don't walk backwards. People walk forward. When people see a path, they walk forward. So forward is our natural way of moving. And wisdom and knowledge and understanding, when wisdom and knowledge and understanding, and let me put this in, I should have said this first, and Torah is guiding our lives, then the Torah, as our instructions, tells us how to advance. But what many people don't know is that the Torah also tells us when to retreat. The Torah tells us when to move forward. And of course, the Torah tells us when to stop and back up. Yes, when to tell your feet, hey feet, this is one of those times where we're not going forward. And everything in you that's saying go forward, something has to say, nope, stop, and do what? Back up. When do we do that? I'm going to give you a couple of examples, and then I'll show you what the text says, and you'll understand it. As a young boy, I mentioned this several times, I would say preteen, probably like 10, 11 years old maybe, going fishing with my dad out here in the country, and I can still see it like it was yesterday. Pick me up, he would come by the house after work, and I'd jump in the old black truck we had, a little step-side Chevy, and we would end up going way out in the country. And then the road would end, we would go down a dirt road, and we'd come to a gate, and at that gate, from that point on, we would go into a gate, and then there was a pathway down to the water. And I remember we were walking, talking. I'm just talking and he talking, but I'm mainly doing all the talking. And my father, I remember, he stopped and he just put his hand out like this, stopped me, said, back up. I'm like, whoa, what just happened? And be still. I'm like, man, I'm be still, trying to figure out, man, what's going on here? And what it was a rattlesnake on the path. And he was curled up on the side of the path. My father said, just back up a little bit. So we both backed up a little bit. Just waited for a second. And then that rattlesnake stretched out and went on in the bushes and kept going. And my dad started walking again. Said, come on, let's go. That is a true story. And obviously it made an impact on the moray because now I'm teaching it to you. So what was the whole point of that? My father said, to be honest, that snake really does not want to kill you, but he will. And so when you stopped and you took a step back, he realized at that point that you were not trying to be a threat. And in this particular rattlesnake, he didn't want no smoke. So he just went on off, and we went. So there's times when in our normal everyday lives out here in the country, you run up on something like that, you stop. And you understand how important it is to learn how to stop if there is what? Danger. The second illustration I have is the illustration of, and this is not something I saw personally, but this is something I heard about from those who served in the wars. And they said that a lot of times what the enemies would do is that they would set traps for you. So as you were walking or you were on patrol or whatever you were doing, one of the things you had to learn how to do was recognize a trap. And so if you were traveling down a particular path, even though you may have traveled that path a million times, if you travel the path and someone recognizes that someone has booby-trapped the actual path, then what they do is, of course, they tell you, stop. So you were going forward, which is the natural and normal way a human walks. And then someone spotted a trap and they said, stop. So everybody just stops. Says, all right, look around, see if there's any more danger around here. And then once they look around, they go, all right, we cannot go forward. So let's just start walking back, start walking back, start walking back, start walking back until we do what? Get outside of the danger of the trap, whether it is explosives or whether it is another type of a booby trap. The idea of seeing the trap, being able to see it, and instead of saying, man, I ain't worry about no trap or whatever, and you just keep walking, and then you end up blowing yourself up. Or you keep walking, you end up getting shot through with 10,000 arrows. When all you really would have had to do was, when you saw it, just stop. Assess the rest of your situation, see whether or not it was safe, and then start backing up. You could have got yourself off of that track and onto a safer path to follow. All right, so those are two examples. Same way with the snake. A person, man, I ain't scared of snakes. All right, so you'll keep walking. You don't have to be, whether you're scared of him or not, the fact that you say, I ain't finna stop for no dang snake, and the next thing you know, you and the snake are entangled in a confrontation, and what happens? Snake bites you. We're way out here in the country. There is no more road. We're out on a dirt road. There's no cell phones and no cell towers. There ain't no SOS, no flashlights. You will get bit out there and die before you make it to the hospital. So trying to push your way through talking about I ain't scared is not the point. The point is there comes some times in life as we journey on the path of life that we need to learn when to recognize either that snake on the road and you stop and back up, or you recognize what? The trap, the booby trap, or however the trap is. So in this particular proverb, what is to me very intriguing about this first proverb is that this first proverb introduces to the prince primarily, and of course this would also go to the princess too, but introduces primarily to the prince his first encounter with sinners outside of the protection of the palace. This is the first time, as we read it, it is set in a scene where it assumes that the prince has come of age. And as he is now moved out of adolescence and his teenage years, he is now moving into manhood, and having left the palace, he is now beginning to travel down what is supposed to be a righteous path. And the way the proverb is arranged is very interesting, because he says, if sinners entice thee, which is a very interesting word, because I dealt with this in a previous video a little bit. You can go back and watch it. But the idea here is if sinners basically encircle or surround you, and that surrounding can be physically surround you, whereas you're walking somewhere and a group of people, whether they are what y'all consider to be thugs, rogue, gangbangers, gang members, whatever, just a group of people that up to what my mom and them used to say, just up to no good. And here you are just walking somewhere, and then this group that's up to no good literally surround you. That is the very first picture of enticement. I will get deeper into this on another video, but that's level one, is that they all surround you. And so he says, if the sinner all surround you and entice thee, in other words, and then they start talking to you about doing something, watch this now, that is evil, that they claim is going to advance your situation, better your situation. If they surround you and talk to you about doing something evil or sneaky or against the Torah or against a man-made laws or whatever, he says that is your first signal that you are dealing with a situation in life. You are dealing with a circumstance whereby something in you needs to, something in you needs to now be triggered. So wait a minute, this scene right here, my dad told me about it. My mom warned me about this, where there's a group of people that's about to go do something wicked, and they see me coming, and they invite me to participate with the lure, if you please. The enticement is what? Money, power, wealth, goods. He said, you should know right there. That's when you need to talk to your feet. Do what, Moray? He said, yeah. Around that time is when you have to learn how to talk to your own feet. So what are you going to tell your feet? Stop. Let's get into it. If sinners entice thee, don't consent. Keep your mouth. If they say, now watch this, because I'm gonna when I get to the end, I want to put these points out now so that when we get to the end of this video, you will actually see how everything falls together. But watch this. If they say, come with us. So first of all, you get your first clue that something is wrong. They say, all of them together, and they all say, hey, come with us. All right, where you going? First of all, you ought to already have stopped your feet from going forward. Second, number two, they say, come with us. Watch this. Number two, let us. In other words, they're saying, you join us and let us do what? Lay wait for blood. In other words, we're getting ready to do some killing. You're going to do what? Yeah, man. This is a gang. You know, we the Bloods, or we the Crips, or we the this, or we the that, or we this street name, that straight name, this corner name, whatever. We're going to lay and wait for blood. In other words, we all strapped up and we about to do some killing. No. Yes. Yeah, man, it ain't right to kill. He said, man, hold on. We gonna, so who was you killing? You getting ready? Y'all gotta go after someone who did this? No. We just gonna lurk around in the darkness and just wait for people who pass by that got something that we want. We just gonna snatch it. If we see somebody with a fat diamond, we're gonna take it. They got a fat chain, we're gonna kill them and take it. If they riding a funky car, a car that has been what they call today all completely pimped out, man, shoot, don't let them stop at that stop sign. Man, we're gonna jump out, man, we're gonna kill him and take his car. So you see here, immediately, you can clearly see here that the very first instruction is you need to recognize when you need to tell your feet to stop. And you need to shut up and not consent to going with anybody who has this on their mind. And as I'm talking about this, I know most of us, especially if we're brown here in the United States of America, you know that our greatest threat is each other. Oh, let me say that again. We should know by now that our greatest threat today, I'm not talking about 50 years ago, 100 years ago, our greatest threat against us today is our own brown people. So as we teach and educate our people about who we are and whose we are, we have to also warn them. There will be people when you leave here that will seek to pull you into areas, into roadways, into pathways, into alleyways that are not your way of traveling. And they will try to entice you by saying, let's wait for blood, let's lurk privately with innocent without a cause. And then he said, then we're going to swallow them up alive as the grave. In other words, we're going to just take them down right then, suddenly, and whole as those that go down to the pit. We're going to drop them. And then he says, verse 13, and we shall find all precious substance. See what they said? So we're going to wait privately for the innocent without a cause. We're gonna lurk in dark places, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some killing, and we're gonna do some robbing, stealing, and then we're gonna then they say, and we shall find all precious substance, and we shall fill our houses with spoil. So they said, what we'll do is we're gonna take from them by killing them. Then we're gonna divide it up. I'll get to that in the next verse, where he's gonna say, cast thy lot in among us and let us all have one person. So he says, what we're gonna do is we are saying this, look, you, because they know we're royalty, by the way. Look, man, we all gotta be all in. We're all in. So whatever you have, we're gonna put it all, make it all one purse. And we're going to make it all one money bag. We're all in. We're all going to take this money. We're going to buy what we need to hide and to fight and to kill. We're going to work together. We're going to do the evil robbing and killing together. Then once we do the robbing and the stealing and the killing, then what we will do is we'll sit down and divide the spoils. So you get some, you'll get some, you'll get some. And we're going to keep doing this until we fill our houses with goods, if you please, till you fill your houses with precious substance. In other words, everything in your house going to be stolen. is going to be high. Everything that you have is because you killed and you robbed. And it's interesting because once we have filled our houses with the quote unquote, with the spoil, one of the dangerous things about that is other people, they'll start coming by and saying things like, man, where'd you get that? Woo, boy, he got this, he got that, man. Look at them fat chains, man. Look at them rings, diamonds and all that. So the lure is, if you just do this dirty, dastardly deed, come with us. Your house will be filled with spoil. We will all be together when it comes to dividing the spoil. Verse 15. He said, my son, yes, walk not in the way with them. Let me interpret that. My son, do not take one step in their direction. Don't do it. Don't go. As a matter of fact, he's going to say in the very B part of verse 15, refrain your foot from their path. Isn't that amazing? He's going to literally say, son, look how he says it. Tell your feet to back up. The word refrain, even the English word refrain is basically the same word, has the same Hebraic definition of the word. And basically what it means is to hold back. It means to hold back or to keep back. And in this instance, it is to go back. So he says, at this point, you need to tell your feet, stop. And if your feet want to go because you're thinking about getting spoiled in your house and all that, you tell your feet, stop and back up. Don't even go in that direction. It's not your direction. Do not go on that path. Why? That's not your path. Do not listen to their speech because that's not your talk. Do not follow their instructions because those instructions that's coming from those wicked people, it contradicts the very instructions that come from ABBA YAH. And that gain that they're talking about is not how a true king or true prince acquires wealth. So everything about these sinners enticing you, everything about what they say and what they do run completely contrary to Torah, which I've said this before. Oh my goodness, I got to get ready to get out this video. I've already told you this before, that when the son leaves the house, he has, I did a thing on fat chains and bandanas. And I talked about that the bandana or the headdress of the prince represented his upbringing. It represented the idea of who he belonged to and what type of person he was by his mitre or his headdress. And so therefore the Torah was the headdress of the prince. So you're going to be known for the way you think, because you're supposed to think biblical. The second thing that we saw was the fat chain. And I mentioned the fact that, the people in the streets and the people who are always trying to pull people into that, which is wicked behavior, oftentimes they run around here trying to entice you with these fat chains. And I mentioned how that stuff is primarily wicked, but when we wear the Torah like a chain, then even when we are not around our mother and our father, you can feel the tug, and it should choke you and should back you up, right? And so when you then leave and you have the Torah on your mind and you have the Torah around your neck, and somebody tries to pull you in one direction as royalty, you don't say, well, I'm just going to go along even though I know better. No, you do not go along just because you know better. You stop, and then you tell your feet, back up. And you young people watching the Mosheh, don't be asking me questions like, well, what if they start laughing at me? You tell them, laugh on. What if they start calling me all kind of sissy and punk? Tell them, call me all sissy and punk all you want to. What if they say, all right, you're going to miss out. When we get all that stuff, you ain't going to get enough. Tell them, more for you. More for you. And you back up. And get off that path. And by the way, you're royalty anyway. But more, they talking about, have you ever had the thrill of killing somebody? Tell them, nope, and I ain't gonna have it unless it's self-defense. Man, do you know what? You want to get rich overnight? Nope. I ain't got to worry about that anyway. My daddy's rich. I come from a long line of royalty. Yes. Tell your feet. Back up. In the last few minutes, I'm gonna close with this. Surely, what is this? Verse 17. Surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of any bird. So now what we have here is a parable inside of the first parable to help us understand the parable by giving us an admonition, by giving us insight to the parable, to the consequences of following the evil crowd. It's genius. The very first true proverb we get is genius because it sets the tone really for all the other proverbs. Because all of the proverbs from this point forward are going to be dealing with making right choices based on either Torah or based on wickedness. So you're going to make right choices based on Torah, making wrong choices that's based on wickedness. The rest of, so he says, when they come to you, remember, the number one thing they will use to entice you is wealth. It's money. We'll get to that in a second. They're gonna talk about spoils and goods and things like that to try to pull you onto a wicked path. And so we hear this, we get this verse here, verse 17, surely in vain the net is spread in the sight of every bird, or any bird. And of course, without going too deep, it's pretty self-explanatory on the surface, simply means this. If you are trying to catch a bird, the worst thing you can do is put up a net where the bird can see it, especially if you put up a net while the bird is watching you put up the net. Then you can forget trying to catch that bird in that net. Even the dumbest bird can see a net being spread to catch it. So it's not going to go in the net, it's going to fly around and fly over, fly away. That's the point. Woo! Fly away from that net, because that net represents death for the bird And even the smallest, dumbest bird knows you don't walk into a net that is spread to kill you. No, you don't fly into it. You fly away. And of course, that's my third illustration for when do you back up. You back up, like I said, if there was like danger in the road, like snake. Hey, snake don't want no smoke. He'll give you smoke, but he don't want none. All right, so we backed up. Snake got on. Then I talked to a military person who told me about the traps and things that were on the road. They told me what they had to do. They backed up. Why? Because they could see the trap. And so my third illustration is sinking this net. And as I promised, as I've always done, and I'm Todah Rabbah to ABBA YAH for always allowing me to see the text in a way I've never seen it before. And therefore, I show it to you, Zion, so that you can see it in a way that you've never seen it before. That's the purpose we come. That's why we come in this room. That's why we study together. And of course, that's why we support the work of the Ark and the work of the coalition. Why? Because Yah is using us to help us open Scripture and understand it, and have fresh understanding to certain words and verses that we've been seeing forever. And of course, Todah Rabbah for you who care enough to keep this ministry going. Now, let us look at the net, and then I'm done. First, let's just look at this net. The Father is telling the Son, he's saying, son, when you leave here, it's going to be a net. I want to show you what a net is. Now, do you remember I mentioned before, if sinners entice thee? So first of all, if you see a group of sinners, and again, I'm talking about people who are not keeping Torah. If you see a group of sinners anywhere as a group of people calling you to come toward them, you already know that's a net. Don't go. Now, that's as easy as I can say it. So he said, look, that any bird, if they see the net, they should know automatically, I ain't going there. So the very first thing he says is, I'm going to show you the net. Why? Because I don't want you to be like a dumb little stupid bird. I don't want you to be dumber than birds. I'm showing you the spreading of the net, point by point. Here it is. First is going to be sinners. They're not going to be righteous, talking about killing somebody. They're going to be sinners. Number two, they're going to entice you with their bloodlust, because the wicked think it is a thrill in killing. They become the kings of killing. They love killing. They get known for killing. A lot of our hoobangers out here that's doing wickedness in our communities, they take pictures with these guns. They take pictures with rifles and and they glorify, shooting and killing and I'll smoke. That right there is so far away from Torah. First of all, we have a commandment that says, thou shalt not kill. So period, anybody talking about that is automatically raw. They are what's the word? They're evil. You already know that they are dysfunctional. When you see these videos now, we're talking about kill and capping and shooting and all that, that's dysfunctional. You're dealing with complete dysfunction. So listen, you Zion, you don't go. You king and queens, you can't go. You prince and princesses, I don't care how attractive it is, because the more they show you the guns and the violence, and the more they show you that, to some people that's attractive, and they get in it for the thrill of the kill. And what the king is saying later, he's going to tell you, he's going to say, they don't know that the thrill of the kill is killing themselves. They don't know that as they set themselves up to be a net to catch you, that they are actually the prey that's getting ready to get caught in the real net. They don't know. So I'm going to tell you ahead of time what this net look like. This net is going to first be a crowd. You can see it as clear as day. Sinners, plural, circle you. Next. And they say what? Come, let us lay in wait for blood. That's a net. If they say, hey, we finna go do some killing. And I already told you, don't stay away from that crowd. I'm talking about even the crowd that's into killing our babies. The crowd that's into killing our babies before they're born. We don't run with none of them crowds. We don't kill the innocent for no reason. Let us lurk privately for the innocent without a cause. We already know what? Again, you're going to see the same thing. Anytime a person tells you we're getting ready to do something, we're going to do it sneaky, and we're going to do it privately in order to do what? Take advantage of someone that ain't done nothing to us. I have a friend of mine who told me he was just he was in Jamaica, and they had told him, hey man, look, you can't even drive down certain streets at night. And he was like, man, my mom is from here. You know, I grew up in the States. All right, I'm telling you, Jamaica done changed, man. Some places out here, boy. And I could do this with anything. I'm just telling you a personal story that a brother told me. He said, man, I didn't listen. I was in a rental car. And he said, I drove somewhere and got lost. He said, and a gang came up, man, and basically, man, carjacked me. He said, I went off. I let him know I'm not the one. And he ain't the one, by the way. But my point is, he could have died. Why? Because these people, he hadn't done nothing to nobody. But when people are dysfunctional, when they are evil, when they are raw, when they are sinners, when they don't have Torah, then they get a thrill out of that kind of thing. And therefore they try to pull you into it. And they think it's funny, or they think it's a thrill to kill people and have them go down to the pit. And then they talking about we're going to split. So whatever they get after each kill, or after each carjacking or theft or burglary or whatever, they always say, man, we're going to split it, which is another thing is you got to watch these people who want to create, quote unquote, family through evil. It's a whole nother lesson. We're going to see that as we study the Proverbs. We are not of that family. We have a whole different family. Our family is the family that follows Torah. Our family is the family that follows Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Our family now has a king, Yahushua, Ha Mashiac, who is alive and well and seated at the right hand of power as I speak, and coming back to redeem us. Whoa, hold it, Moray. You can't do no preaching right now. We just teaching tonight. So he's saying, here's your net. They're going to talk about killing somebody and sending them straight to hell. They're going to talk about taking stuff that's not theirs and filling their houses with stolen goods. He said, all that right there is a net. So when you see it, don't be dumb. Don't go there. Tell your feet to back up. Stop your forward progress, if that's where you were heading, and get away from there. Why? Because even the little birds you can't do that to. So you got to have way more sense than that. 18, and they lay wait for their own blood. They do what? They lay wait for their own blood. They do what? They said they were lurking privately for the blood of the innocent to kill them. But the king said, nah, because there is another vantage point that they don't see. And there's another vantage point that our people don't see. We have an Elohim. We have what the English calls God, but he's not the English word God. He's the all-powerful, all-knowing, all-self-sufficient power of the universe, Elohim, Yahuwah. And there's one thing that we are told over and over again in scripture is that he sits high and looks low. He rules from the Shamayim, which is called heaven. He rules from there down. So he is basically saying this in the Hebrew. You can't really see it in English, but for sure when you study this from a Hebraic viewpoint, you're going to see it plain as day. He's saying, watch this. He's saying that when a net is spread in the sight of a bird or in the sight of birds, so you get another picture to this conclusion, and that is the person spreading the net doesn't even realize that they're spreading the net, watch this, in front of the bird that can see the net being spread, which means it's not going to work. So there is another side to the conclusion of the parable, because what he's really saying is, he's saying that the little innocent birds that you call yourself spreading the net for, the birds themselves have a watcher. Talk more. And if the birds themselves have a watcher, and let's just break it down. Let's say that the birds have a watcher who is a master bird, which say is an eagle, whatever, to protect the young ones. And you spread a net and he's watching you do it to kill his children. Guess what he's going to do? He's going to swoop down and kill you. So the whole idea of them trying to set a trap for the innocent and not knowing that the innocent have someone watching over them all day and all night. You think you're doing it in private and in the dark, and you think you are in the alleyways and the byways and under the shadow of dawn or dusk. He's like, all of that don't matter, because every trap that the enemy and the wicked lays, and every time they take advantage of other people and spoil their goods, put in their own house, he says, when that happens, I, the Heavenly Father, I avenge my people, and therefore I am going to kill them. Those of you who have been following my series in Revelation, as we've getting ready to conclude the book, really, it won't be a whole lot longer, you will see that every deed that has ever been done, none of it has been done without Yah seeing it. And that's not my lesson for tonight. But when you talk about these nations and these people groups that have gone all over the world and have taken lands by killing the people and putting their goods, we could talk about the European nations primarily, because of course they've done it on a global scale, and the record of the things that they've done have been written down all over the place. So it's not the Moray. They have all these records of all the lands that they've conquered, and primarily what lands have been conquered by the Europeans, because all the lands still talk the language of the colonizer. So just like I'm speaking English, so it's obviously the English some kind of way conquered here and established their language as the official language, so they're in English. And then for those of you who were conquered by the French, you're going to speak French. And those of you who were conquered by the Spaniards, you speak Spanish. You're not a Spaniard, you're not French, and you're not English, but you were conquered by them, and therefore they left their tongue, they left their languages there as evidence of conquering. And what have they done? Filled their houses with the spoil, and then asked you to join in now. But the truth of the matter is, there was nothing done by these wicked nations that Yah didn't see, and therefore there is a expiration date, if you please, to all evil empires, because they never have the final say. Yah has the final say. So even if it is a group of people, a gang, a nation, a city, a country, whoever thinks that they can advance and fill their houses with spoil by taking from the innocent, they don't know that what they have done is they set a trap for themselves. And according to the Bible, it says, and they lurk privately for their own lives. That's not how we are established as kings and queens. so are the ways, so are the ways of everyone that is what? Greedy. What do you mean? Yes, greedy. Yeah, but we live in Babylon today, and the whole nation is based on greed. I know, but this is going to be the end of it. But that's what all of these people that are caught up in all these gangs and gang violences and that, and people that are in these wicked crowds and these dysfunctional fellowships and these dysfunctional, evil and wicked groups and subgroups and associations and all these wicked societies and all of that. When it all boils down to it, it's about greedy gain. It's the greediness of gain. And they know that by wickedness, they can get what does not belong to them. And at the same time, he says, and they can also take away the life of the owners. The very first proverb. He said, man, take your feet out that path. That's not the path you go. Now, to conclude, number one, I'm showing you the net. I'm showing you the trap. I'm showing you the temptation that they're going to dangle in front of you, the greediness of gain, the greedy of gain, where there is no limit to get the things to put in their houses. I'm showing you the temptation. The crowd is all going to be about doing that. I showed you the comparison. Any dumb bird would avoid a net that is spread out in the open and they can see it. So therefore, son, before you walk out this door, I'm showing you what the net look like. Don't get caught in it. Then, of course, the dysfunctional and hurtful plans of the wicked, of the sinners, are always played out in the full sight of ABBA YAH, because he sees everything. And therefore, he will require everything at the judgment. And in the last word of my conclusion on this study tonight is, don't go. Moray, you can't just stop by saying that. Oh yeah, just don't go. First step, son. Don't go along with the crowd. First step in becoming royalty is you can't go with the crowd. The dysfunctional crowd is not your crowd. The let's shoot them is not your crowd. Let's rob and steal, or today let's kill our own people by giving them poison in drugs or cocaine or fentanyl or whatever other drugs are out there. Let's get them, so let's kill them that way and do what? Take their stuff. That ain't your crowd. That's not who we are. Just don't go. I don't care what car they're driving, how much jewels they have, and when you go to their homes, how many screen TVs they got, how much other, if it's all done evil and with blood money, no, just don't go. Walk in a different direction. Don't be dumber than birds. You can see the net. Walk with your people. That's your mother and your father teaching you Torah, and everyone else that's keeping Torah, because these people are not your people. The sinners are not your people. The righteous is your people. The wicked path is not your path. The righteous path is your path. The wicked and sinful people who always try to persuade you with pleasure is not your people. Those are the people from Hasatan, the devil. And anybody get a thrill out of killing the innocent, that's not your people. Anybody talking about, man, just hang with it, that's not your people. Your people are the people of the covenant. Our people don't base our lives on the greed of gain. But we believe that everything that Yah has for us, if we walk according to his laws, statutes, and the commandments, he will make sure that he gives it to us. We will learn as kings and queens how to be content, how to count the blessings that we already have, and how to realize that when ABBA YAH fills a house with good things, those good things do not come with strings and hooks attached to them. Our neighborhoods, unfortunately, the brown people in this country, the death surge went up 35%. It went up over the last 20, I wrote that stat down, over the last 25 years, our people have suffered more than any other people by violence and violent deaths by the hands of each other. Which means that sometimes even your skin folk ain't your kinfolk. It's not your like kind. Back up. Tell your feet. We ain't going that direction. Oh no. So which way are we going? How about we continue to walk on the righteous path? Why don't we continue to take the highway to the Shamayim, knowing that none can walk up there but the pure in heart? Why don't we continue to follow our King, who of his own mouth said, "Follow me"? And then we don't spend no time following the wicked or following the devil. No, I believe the best thing for us to do when he start talking about come this way, we're going to turn around. I had other verses, but I'm cutting to the end now because I see my time. But you see words like flee fornication. I'll get to that in the next lesson. What does that mean? Run. You see the devil trying to take people under these. Run. Get out the way. Know who you are and stand up for truth. Find the right path. Stay on it. It won't be long. Our King is going to return and we'll be going home. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.